In today's episode, I want to suggest that it's important that we pay attention to what we pay attention to, because it turns out that the sights and sounds and images that we consume shape us and form us. Stay tuned. Hello, friends. Pastor Tim Westermeyer here, Senior Pastor of St. Philip the Deacon in the western suburbs of Minneapolis. Good to be with you as always. We are taping this on July 31st. The episode will come out on August 1st. And so initially I was reflecting actually on a couple of things that happened yesterday. So yesterday, the day we're taping this, July 30th, which sort of marked the conclusion of a couple of summertime ministries, experiments that we've been doing. The experiment was morning prayer services that we did on Wednesdays during the month of July. So we had the last of those yesterday from the day I'm taping this, 2 days from the day you're seeing this. And yesterday evening, we concluded the July organ series, which with our very own Selena Kovacic, which, by the way, was wonderful. The whole series was wonderful. Thank you, Selena, for planning and curating it, and your recital last night, Selena, if you're seeing this, was also wonderful. One thing I will do here is we'll link to a playlist of all of those concerts up here that you can link to if you were not able to get to them or if you'd like to listen to them again. So what I was initially going to say is just sort of mention the conclusion of those things and then look sort of to the fall when we'll have many more ministries. But as I was sitting with the conclusion of those, they sort of, in my mind, intersected with some of what I've been reading in this book by Lanta Davis. I mentioned this a couple of episodes ago, which was an episode about some reading suggestions for the summer months. It's Becoming by Beholding the Power of the Imagination in Spiritual Formation. Lanta Davis, and again, we will no doubt talk about this at least a few more times before October, but she'll kick off our Faith and Life series this fall on October 9th, 7 o'clock. Talking largely about the topic of this book. So anyway, given that what we just finished here was beautiful music, including hymns and pieces last night that are based on the Psalms and other music related to the life of faith, and given that we just concluded a morning prayer service, which of course is about inviting us to begin the day in prayer, I'm struck by how those two events and other things we've been doing this summer are designed to shape our imagination, to help us understand who we are. Where do we come from? What is the meaning of life? What's our purpose? Where are we going? As Lanta says, we naturally imitate the stories we embrace, the images we consume, the places we inhabit, and the heroes we admire. And she says later, this is all in the introduction, in this book, she's going to ask some questions about our habitual ways of seeing. And she asks, how have we perhaps been walking on the wrong path without realizing it? How have our eyes been malformed by the patterns of our age? What ways might they be limiting or distorting our vision of the gospel? So another way of saying that is that our imaginative life is informed all the time by the images we're receiving through our eyes, through our ears, through what we read, through what we experience. And typically those images are highly curated and sophisticated for the sake of having us react to them, to purchase something, to act on them in some way. And it strikes me, by the way, that most of the time the people who are giving us those messages, I'm thinking here of like advertising, are invisible to us, right? So we consume all of this stuff, it shapes and forms us, and we're sort of unaware of it. And so one of the roles of the church, it seems to me, and again, I think we're going to spend a fair amount of more time on this in the months to come. Indeed, in October, we're going to do a month-long class on this. But one of the goals of the church, or the purposes of the church, is to recalibrate our eyesight, the way we hear, the way we respond to the world, through images that maybe are not the typical images that we see every day in our culture. That turns out to be a tough nut to crack. There's a lot of headwind on that because there's so much now we're consuming, all of us, myself included, through these little devices. But I'm struck today, I guess, by a few things which will draw this to a close. One, if you were at the organ recitals or the morning prayer services, I would be interested in your reactions to those. That's one thought. Two, I'd be interested in ways that you feel as a Christian you shape your own imaginative life. And if you have ideas about that have worked for you, please share them. Just this morning, Tim, I hope you won't mind my saying this, asked if I had a good suggestion for a morning prayer devotion. So if you have those kind of activities, please share them. If you're looking for ways that your imagination might be shaped as we begin the fall, not quite yet. We still have to get through the month of August, okay? But we're planning for the fall. So if you have ideas about what might be ways that you think your imagination might be shaped for the fall, let us know about that. And then I'm struck, I guess, and we'll probably show some of these images here. I'm struck by the way this congregation and the art that surrounds us attempts, at least in some subtle but important ways, to again shape and form or reshape and reform our imaginative eyesight. So some of those things, this won't be exhaustive, but the things that come to mind right away, we were talking this morning about the icon of St. Philip the Deacon. There are actually three of them, but there's one main one. And again, that retells visually the story of our namesake. I think about the image we use all the time of our baptismal font. And interestingly, we have been thinking about trying to get my left here in the studio, adding a little bit of more visual pop to that. And so we've added something that's been in this studio for a long time, but I didn't think of using, which is an image of our baptismal font. That turns out to be the oldest piece of furniture in our sanctuary. It's a beautiful piece of stoneware, sort of pebbly blue looking. And so it both has a story connected to it related to this congregation in that it goes back a long ways, but it has a bigger story about our identity as children of God. And so all of that may not come through every time people see that image, but it is certainly the case that image communicates that. I think about the stained glass in our sanctuary, which retells the entire biblical narrative through art, through 24 panels. We have a link on our website that talks about all of those things. I think about some beautiful wood carvings that have prayers and the words of songs on them in very public spaces in our sanctuary and in our hallways. I think about icons of Jesus. And again, I go back to that first thing I mentioned by Lanta. We naturally imitate the stories we embrace, the images we consume, the places we inhabit, and the heroes we admire. When we look on the face of Jesus, we see all of the stories he told. We see the story of his life, and hopefully we see someone who we are being invited to imitate and to become like in our own faith journeys. I could give more examples, but I think I'll leave it to that. So again, all of this is by way of sort of just maybe lifting up for us as we have another month left of the summer, the fact that we are being shaped and formed by the culture around us. As Christians, we should be aware of that. We should be attuned to that, and we should look for ways that God can shape and form our imagination more in a way that's more aligned, let's say, with God's kingdom. And so I hope that's helpful today. I hope this finds you well. Thanks, as always, for being with me. And as always, until next time, be well, stay in touch, and God bless.